Welcome, guys, to the Get Aligned podcast, where we answer the questions and cover topics that help you align your business with success. As always, the man, the myth, the legend, Brett Sikora, joining me today. What's going on, brother?
What's up, man?
Not much, man.
Looking forward to it.
I'm excited to cover a really, really fun topic today. We're going to talk about this. So this is what we call in the industry, a lot of people refer to it as moving season, right? The December into January, new year. A lot of people kind of reflecting back on the year that's been or the past couple of years and decide, hey, am I in the right team? Am I at the right brokerage? Do I need to change? Do I need something new? Did I outgrow it? Do I need more support? Whatever the case may be, a lot of people are having those thoughts, having those conversations with themselves and with some of their, mentors and colleagues right now. So we're going to cover the different types of agents and team leaders that are considering moves, what they probably are thinking about, and they'll go through like 10 questions that you really should either ask directly to whatever team or broker you're interviewing, or like things that you should make sure you check off the list and make sure you understand about where you're going, right? Those 10 pain points. So I think the first thing we just want to talk about is the fact that there's not a one size fits all here, right? We have a brand new agent. We have a person that's doing a couple deals a year that can't get over the hump. We have someone who's doing 20 million a year that wants to go to 40. We have a team leader that has a couple agents that wants to grow and build, right? So all these topics are going to hit each one of those individuals in a different way. So I think that's where we start the conversation, right?
Yeah, and like we've always broken down on our side when we're going through it. It's like, you have that small market, that newer agent or under 3 million a year. You have that mid market where they're like cranking, maybe they're making 100 grand, want to make 300, 400, or they're already making 300, 400. And then you have more of that enterprise where it's like brokerage owner, small team, large team, whatever that may be. And a lot of what, like, I don't know, I want to say we've recruited probably over 2,000 people that have come and gone through EXP at this point. And I've probably not recruited 4,000 people that I've talked to. So I hear the same problems come up day in and day out. And that's what we wanted to do with Align, where if you want to be an individual agent, you can rock with us. If you want to have your own brand, you can rock with us. If you want to be a team leader, you can rock with us. If you're a brand new agent, maybe you can rock with us. We're gonna grill you a little harder.
You're gonna be able to rock with us.
We're gonna make you successful, but you got to play all out.
But you're 100% right. Like there's got to be certain cultural things that you need to hit at any of these levels as I think the starting gate there, right? But then all these things layer in from there.
Yeah, and that too, like you have an awesome checklist of this that. I don't know, like I don't even think we have it on here, goal setting, but like that's, I guess step one, we can kind of go into that. But I asked so many agents now that we're at the tail end of this year, what are your plans for 2025 and what did you do in 2024? And it's kind of like when you have no money in your bank account and you don't want to look at it. That's how agents feel right now at the end of 2024, because they didn't do what they were supposed to be doing. So they feel guilty about it. And yet they're already setting themselves up for failure in 2025 by not changing that habit.
When I sit down with anybody that's thinking about joining the organization, the first question I ask is like, hey, zoom out 3 years.
Right.
Everything's perfect. The last 3 years went perfectly. It's 2027 or whatever. That sounds crazy, but wow, it's 3 years of 27. What does it look like? What happened? How much business are you doing? What does your day look like? Where's your business coming from? And then we can work backwards from there, right? We could say like, where you're at today, what's gonna change? Or do you have the right tools? It's just a matter of time. Or do you need new tools, right? And then you can kind of start to understand if we're a good fit for someone or someone's a good fit for any brokerage or not, right? You can't really just say it's a one size fits all. So that, what's your plans for the next year, the next 3 years? What does that look like? It really starts the conversation. I think that's a good place for any agent, team leader, anybody to start with, like, what do they want it to look like? And then work backwards.
Yeah, 100%.
Cool. All right, let's get into our 10 things here. We have 10 things that you definitely should be asking of your new team leader, new team broker that you're interviewing, and understanding these things at a lot of depth before you take. That's a lot of time and energy and money to switch brokerages, right? Maybe not money as much, but time and energy to switch brokerages and teams. So you should be sure of these things. And let's kick off. The first thing that I would always want to see is I want to know what your training calendar is like. I think depending on the type of agent you are, where you are in your career, you might be looking for different things to be on that training calendar. You might be looking for different frequencies. You might be looking for, hey, do I need to be at these trainings to get access to different things? Or are these like just come if I need them type of situations? And I think those are all important to think about when you're looking at training calendars.
Yeah, absolutely. And that too is, depending on the brokerage size or the team leader size, something that we see a huge variable.
Yeah.
Like there's such a difference there. When I started with Weicker Realtors in 2007, what was pitched to me at the time was a very good new agent training system. And that's where I got my real estate license. And I want to say we spent a good 2 weeks in the office, and I didn't necessarily implement what they were telling me to do because it didn't really align with what I was trying to do as a 21-year-old. But they did take time. There was leadership that had taken time out of their day. And I think of when we were at Keller Williams as well, there were set trainings that were going on where it was trying to move agents into that next direction. What I've personally experienced, and this is why we started looking around a little bit, was there was a lack of continuity.
Right.
I think that too is like where we geek out or we try to play around is, okay, great. Do we go Sphere? Do we go Schedule? Do we do this? Do we do that? And then when do we restart the whole thing again?
Right.
Because it really is, doesn't matter how productive you are, the training's fairly similar of what you should be looking for in training.
I agree. And I think, like, to that point, when I'm looking at a training calendar and when I look at our organization's training calendar, one of the most important things to me is what recently was removed from your training calendar, what recently was added, what's being built for the future. What do you start to see? Like, I want to see somebody that's in a leadership position having a thought about the training calendar, not like, this is the one that we've done for 4 years. It's awesome. It's great. We're going to keep doing it for the next 4 years. Like that. I don't think you're evolving. I don't think that organization is growing and evolving. It's always a conversation of what's there, what's available, like making sure you have the resource, the types of training you need, but also knowing that someone's evolving that thing and caring about it. Is key to me.
Yeah. And at the time of filming this, we're in mid-December right now. I laugh or poke when I find out that team leaders or brokerage owners or managers are still doing their weekly training and they're still covering NAR topics. And I think of it, you and Omar did a fantastic job with this, with Jeffrey Kist, with the brokers and whatnot, where we had completed our NAR stuff. It became redundant by the end of August.
Yeah.
And we had moved on. We went back into goal setting. So many agents are paralyzed and leaders are paralyzed right now by this new world that we're operating in, and so afraid of change.
Yeah.
When we took the conservative approach rather than making all of the changes as we keep getting forced into them. We just made the change in August. We operate in the way that the settlement wants us to operate in. And our agents don't even think about it. They just do deals.
It's awesome. And it parlays perfectly into the second thing, which is finding out about the company's culture.
Yep.
And this is there's some tangible things we could talk about here, like what you're saying, and there's some intangible things, right? So like a tangible thing is, does your company train, harp on negative things and allow meetings to degenerate that way, right? We had someone who just joined us from another brokerage recently. Talked to him this morning. He has 5 offers going in, plus the one accepted one in 3 weeks. He's like lighting the world on fire.
Yep.
He said every meeting they had at his old brokerage for the last 6 months, and it started with, we're not going to take this thing negative, and then at the end went negative. And I'm like, wow, like that's that culture, like the people that are driving that ship and the agents that are involved in those rooms, get into a team meeting before you join a new brokerage and see what that tone and that energy is like. Are people coming excited, talking about growth and change and handling objections and problems in their business from a positive perspective?
Yep.
Or has it become for lack of a better word, a bitch session a lot of times? I've been in those rooms, right? Like they're not moving anyone forward. So that's a tangible piece of culture. Like, is how much does the culture allow negativity versus problem solving, abundance, growth, right? It's easy to see that in a couple meetings.
I haven't been in a bitching session for so long. It actually, I almost miss them. I miss that toxic negativity.
Oh my God.
We're so focused on the gratitude and abundance and everything that we can do to be the best version of ourselves that it's almost it's like having a glass of scotch or doing something bad for your body. It's like that. It's like, it's like when cliques, in high school or whatever, they start to shit talk about other folks and stuff like that. And so,
a little gossip.
And that too, from a cultural standpoint, it's like if you're in a tight one, there's no competition.
Right.
Nobody cares about what the other people are doing. Nobody's talking about other people.
Abundance. There's abundance.
Yeah. They're just actually rocking, trying to be the best version of themselves. And I also too, from a cultural standpoint as well, I like to look in and see, did something happen to you at your brokerage in the last 12 months that you didn't like?
Mm-hmm.
And that's a really common one too. And then they don't do something about it and they just eat it and they let it build. And that's not an empowered state either for an agent to be operating. There's that, I don't know, they're just lacking that transparency in there.
Definitely. And I think that's a key thing, like operating from a world where you're aggravated with your situation, but you're just too kind of stuck, or it's too much of a lift to change it.
Right.
I hate seeing stuff like that. Like,
Yeah.
we met someone recently who their broker stole a listing from them, and they're just kind of like that. I'm so mad, but whatever, I'll get back to work. And I'm like, you're working from a place of being angry every day. Like, that sucks. Like, to me, like this doesn't fly. And that culture is toxic and doesn't work at all to me. But talking about like a broker competing, right, and things like that, I think culture also is, does a culture allow you to build your own brand or not? And maybe you want it and maybe you don't. Or maybe you want to have the ability to lean into a powerful brand, and you want to have the ability to grow in the future, or at the same time, your own brand, right? So I think there's a brokerage or a team is very like distinguished by if they allow that or they don't, right? If they have that kind of culture of agent growth within and above the agent, the broker brand as well.
And my bad if any of my friends are watching this that do this, but I can't stand when they claim ownership on like the MLS stuff too. I think that's such a like, let your agents thrive and get circle of excellence. And none of mine even do it.
Right.
They don't care, but they can if they want to, you know? And I don't know. I just think that, and I went through that too. And that's why I always wanted to get away from that.
It's back to abundance, right? It's back to like, I've never put my name, I put my name as a co-agent on things where they need to be, so I can have the ability to help out if I need to do. But the lead agent is always the number one person there, because I want them to be proud and grow. Like, I don't want to stifle them for what?
When they're on like a listing appointment and the opposing agent goes on the MLS and pulls up like, are they doing anything, and they don't show up?
Yep.
Well, I mean, you literally use that against
100%
other people, even if they're productive. So
I think we had a bunch of layers of culture there, from toxicity to positivity to can you grow your own brand or not? Like, I think those to me really hit the two major things in culture. And just people you want to be around, I think, is the easy test, the Yankee game test, right?
Yeah.
Do you want to go to Yankee game and spend 8 hours with this person or not? Right? As a team leader or people in the organization. All right. Number 3, moving on, talk about the onboarding of the team or the brokerage. I know a lot of leadership and recruiters and people who are trying to bring people into their team and brokerage will promise the wind, the moon, the earth, the stars, whatever the heck the saying is. And then you get there and it's kind of like, what's next? There's no flow, there's no fluidity. Like, maybe you don't want it. Maybe you just want a place to hang your license. You have your own business. Like, no, like, you're not going to be forced through a crazy onboarding process. But if you're looking to come to grow and change and make the impact on your business, make sure you know, like, what happens on day one, then what happens like a week later, a month later. Like, what's do I go through a program? Is it me watching videos? Is it me one-on-one with somebody? Like, there's a million different ways to onboard someone into an organization based on, what the organization provides and doesn't provide. But there's, I think, a lot of times just a lot of hyperbole around like what we're going to do for you without a lot of tangibility to like, what does that first month look like,
Yeah, it's like, here, read this book and go do that all on your own.
Yep, exactly right.
And that too, like, there's always, depending on the team size or the brokerage size, there's I'll use Liberty Realty. I was with Liberty Realty. When I onboarded with them, I was with Sekou for about, I want to say 3 months. And we like met daily. And I felt like, dude, we're rocking. And that was the third brokerage that I was with before I really got things to click. But yeah, that was a really good onboarding experience that I had at that time. And that too is like, what we want to make sure that where you're at when you're onboarding, that it's not pulling away from, if you're already onboarding, it's not pulling away from your experience to grow once you're in the organization. But if you're just onboarding, that you're actually getting, like, you're rocking and playing all out. And we just put any team leader or broker owner out there, we just did this past year, which I think is pretty cool, where I get notified when they're with the organization for 90 days. I shoot an email out and I tell them to get onto our calendar. Or onto my calendar, and I Zoom with them, and I want to know like the good, the bad, the ugly, so that we can make that experience as good as possible. And I always tell people, like, who's checking in on you after you've onboarded, after you've become a number?
That's me being able to scale and grow and get all the things that you can get from being large. Zillow Flex accounts, great training opportunities, great offices, like all those things. But keeping the personal touch, especially through an onboarding process, is like that kind of dual-edged sword, the thing you want to walk the line of. Like, you don't want people to feel like a number, but you also want a lot of numbers so you can get access for everybody to these great powerful things, right? So I think that's a huge thing, something simple, a 90-day check-in, right? And seeing how it went, what we could fix, what we can make better, and grow forward from there. So awesome. All right, number 4, we have transaction coordination. We don't have to spend a lot of time here, but this one, like, one, does your team or brokerage do it? Does it exist? Number 2, if it does, what does it entail? Because so many transaction coordinators are just like, get me everything, and then I'll just put them in this, upload them, and that's my job, right? I take, like, once you've done it all, I upload it for you. I've seen that, and they charge like $300, $400, $500 a file for that. Real transaction coordination that is going to leverage you is going to take that file way earlier, right? So talk a little bit about, I guess, how we do that and why we think about transaction coordination on that end of things.
Yeah. So like even when we're recruiting and bringing people into the organization, people are like, "Oh, are your TCs are they virtual?"
Yeah.
I'm like, "No, they have virtual to support them, but they're all U.S. based. They're actually all coincidentally in New Jersey right now. We have 3. Maddie lives in Long Valley, I believe. Our lead admin JJ lives in Morristown, and Vic lives in Princeton, and they're all, absolute rock stars that have and come from a lot of experience and that kind of servant leadership mindset around the transaction. So their goal is to really make the agents' lives as good as possible. And I think that's, like, us personally, that's why we get so many of those 10 million, 20 million, $30 million producers, because they're set up to just run files. And if people let them do their job and run the system in the right way, they're amazed at how much free time, where we can be shooting podcasts all morning, and yet I'm getting little Slack messages that the smoke cert's set up for this listing, and all the emails are going out to around the home inspection, and they're talking with the seller, and they're in the deal.
Taking it from that, like, accepted offer, or even preparing the offer for you to be presented, right? Like it's so much earlier than, like, did it close? Cool. Send me the files and I'll upload it. It's like a world of difference. So I think, like, figure out what you're looking for. If you're a person that wants to be high touch through all their transactions and knows it's going to cost them to be able to scale, you can't really double your business by doing that, but you're okay with that because that's where you want to live. Like, maybe a basic transaction coordination works for you. But if you're looking to scale, you're looking to grow, you're looking to go from 10 to 20 deals, 20 to 40 deals, make sure that transaction coordination is actually going to take stuff off your plate and not just be like a cool thing to say you have, right?
Yeah. And I love, too, people who have issues delegating but want more out of life. Just so everybody knows, what was it? The KPAs with Keller Williams when we were there. My highest thing on their ranking is a transaction coordinator. So anybody who's watching this,
I can't imagine you
my
managing
brain but it's set up. And I actually think that's why I do well as a team leader, because I can quarterback things. I see multiple things happening at once, but my brain is set up where I would be a badass transaction coordinator, like, to the fullest.
That's awesome.
So for me, who requires, like, that much perfection on things to be able to delegate and step off and then grow my business forward as a result, the agents that are actually bad transaction coordinators on those KPAs, they should really step off their files.
Right, for sure, man, without a doubt. All right, next, and I put this one right after transaction coordination because I think a lot of times they can be meshed together, is admin support. So something that I think is very, very key is knowing, like, what's your responsibility going to be versus the organization's leverage for things like getting business cards, marketing requests, like getting numbers pulled to put into a dialer, doing things like coordinating, what I'm thinking, client events and different, like, charity events, things like that. All those things that, like, are so important, but they're ancillary. They're kind of the secondary thing that are not out with clients, but they support us getting out with clients. A lot of times people will just kind of bleed that into transaction coordination or admin. It's like the same thing. I think you need to make sure, if you're looking for that they're separate departments, that there's separate pieces of leverage that really support your business in different ways, not just kind of the same meshed way together.
Yeah. And that's a perfect example of, like, when I was on a team and we'd wrapped up 2014 and I was getting into 2015, I just posted this on social media. I went out, I shot a ton of photos. I want to say I took like 58 photos that year or that day. And we spent the whole day getting me in these corny suit pictures in front of all the properties. And then I didn't do anything with it for 10 years. And it's because I actually didn't know how to I really didn't even know how to post on social media at that point in time. So, like, from an administrative side of things, I still don't really know how to post on social media. But if you go look at my Instagram, the person, Katie, who's running Align.team, does know how to post on social media. Your account knows how to post. And they just add me as collaborators, and my followers are growing, and we're getting things, and I share, and I kind of do that. But that's the whole idea, is, like, you don't have to be an expert at all of these things, but you do have to be an expert at, like, doing this and putting yourself out there and shooting the
Yep.
content and getting on the phones and making the dials through the circle prospecting of that neighborhood that the administrative support.
Yep.
And that's really what we've gotten good at, is removing any of the, you don't have to do anything other than do what's like the actual income producing activity.
Yeah, literally spend your time there. And I think that big thing that matters is like, what do you want your business to look like? Do you want it to be something that has a lot of marketing and social media and client events and stuff like that? If that's something you're looking for, make sure a team that you're going to and a broker you're going to supports that. Otherwise, you're going to be knowing you're going to be doing it all by yourself, or know that you're just going to be, on the phone 5 hours a day, circle dialing, prospecting, things like that, right? Like, just know what you're looking for and what actually comes from that team and that broker.
Yep, absolutely.
Cool. All right, the big one. This is the one that so many people start off with, which a lot of people want to downplay and say it's not important. It really shouldn't be the big reason you join a team. But sometimes I disagree with that. I think like you need this as leads, right? What kind of leads does the organization have? Do you want leads? Is it a priority to you? Leads usually come with some of the financials and the splits changing, right? With especially like some of these home lights, little flex accounts, things like that. If you have an ISA touching it. So I think it's super important to know, number one, what's available. And number two, what do I need to do to get into that rotation and that flow? But number three, and I think this is not really in the same category, but it's adjacent to it, is what am I going to do to get off of the leads too, right? Like, because we always talk about as an organization, like if you need leads, we want you to, here we have a million resources for you. But I want to coach you up to be able to lower your need for leads, because your SOI and your repeat business and your farm has gotten so strong. Because chasing internet leads is great when you need to, it's great like infusion, but people burn out if that's your business model forever, right? So knowing those things, what's available, how you get them, how you get off of them, I think all matters a lot when you're looking at a new organization.
Yeah, and I feel like a lot of folks too that join teams specifically because of the leads, once they get that and a lot of team leaders or brokerage owners are pitching, like you'll even see their social media is like, come here for leads.
Right.
And that message is, that's not actually what the agents want. The agents want consistent income when they say they want leads. They want to live like their best life, and however they get there with the least amount of effort in the most efficient way is what I think leadership needs to focus on. So our agents, when they graduate from the lead system, which we have some damn good some of the best lead sources out there, they are really humming with like an Eric Goldfarb, Dan Spitz, Red Bonk. Like they're working the system in the right way where people just call them and they call them and everything. And they have very predictable business. And I think that when people come to us and they say, hey, do you have leads? What I hear is I want consistent income.
Definitely.
So it doesn't really matter where the lead comes from if you can develop consistent income.
I think that's a good point to like talk real quick about how these all tie together. Right. So like all these things, it shouldn't just be a yes or no, but it might be like 5 yeses that all coordinate to one big yes, right? And the no's that are there may not matter to you. Right. So like, it's not like you have to get the right answer on every single one of these to make it a home run for your organization. I mean, I think every organization should try to get to a home run on all 10 of these to support all agents at all levels. But like you could find one that has 3 of these that you're looking for that's going to help you blow up, and boom, that's your business model and your business style of business, and you're moving forward from there.
Exactly.
Cool. Right alongside leads is a tech stack. I have a couple thoughts about tech stack here. I think, first of all, if you don't have any technology and you're not using any systems, like any system works, right? So like any coordinated system, but I think the big word there is the coordinated part, where like just having technology and then not actually coaching people into how to use it. How does one piece tie to another piece? How are they all coordinated into a cohesive system that's going to support growth and organization and leverage and all those different things really, really matters. And this is kind of what the training calendar, show me the last piece of tech you added and show me the last piece of tech you removed. Like I want to see an evolving, because this world, like one of our jobs as leadership in an organization is to constantly be curating what's best of breed out there right now, because there's so much noise. And if an agent trying to sell real estate at a high level had to also try to sift through what's the best thing today, you're set up for failure, right? So that's how I think about tech stack, is make sure it supports you, it's evolving, it's growing, and it's curated.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like you know, you're always sitting around us when we're testing things out or getting on Zooms to see what's out there. Like, do we like this? Do we not? I don't like a lot of the things I look at, but every now and then we find something. And I know, like for the agents, like yeah, AI voice. That's a huge
Yeah.
thing. We have Jen Ship just got cloned. I don't even know.
I've
Have you
heard,
seen
I
it?
haven't seen it though. I've been waiting to see
She
it.
got cloned where like AI created her with her voice, with her
That's crazy.
face, her mannerisms. It's nuts. And I told her too, she should do a bit on Instagram where it's an AI reel or is this me or not, and start posting things, and can you pick the difference?
That's pretty cool.
And I
That's
think it'd
fun.
be cool to see them like kind of engage in that. But
Yeah.
but there's so much tech out there. There's so many cool things, and it could be overwhelming for an agent or a broker owner to make those decisions. And we're testing AI ISAs right now.
Yeah.
And a lot of people think too, like an AI ISA that's actually making calls, not just like a texting one, is like a set it and forget it. And they don't realize how much manpower goes into just actually, what is it going to be running?
Yep.
Measuring, did it start? AI can also start to kind of go off on a tangent, and you need to listen to the calls to make sure it's not there. But when you really set up like AI voice in the right way, it's one person can run it and then have 5 bots running it, and then and there's so much more leverage. But I think people are always looking for that magic pill, and at the end of the day, it's more efficient and effective, but it still requires a lot of human energy.
I think the fact that like having tech, having it curated so it all fits together, but then having it constantly monitored is what you just hit on there. Because so many times you just throw something out, you're like, hey, we have this new shiny object, and then it's like, figure out how to use it and how does it work. It's not really working right. Oh shoot, we got to go back to the vendor and ask and hold them accountable to this thing they promised us that didn't actually happen when the tech went live. That's a full-time job, right? Like we split it up, I think, amongst multiple people depending on what part of the department it's in, so we don't have like a dedicated person that inspects all the tech. But each piece of tech has somebody who's kind of quarterbacking it, right? And making sure it actually does what we want it to do for the organization to add value. Otherwise, it's just a nice line item.
And I'll add in too, like we looked at Salesforce as one of our tech options back in the day, and it's very expensive to run. And so we were on Follow Up Boss, and people are like, oh, I have Follow Up Boss too. And the back end of our Follow Up Boss is completely custom built out with rims and a cool stereo and all that fun stuff.
A loud muffler.
Where like people don't even know that you can customize these things. Yeah. So
100%. And that's a lot of work that goes into that. So make sure like if tech is important to you, you have to make sure there's like that mindset around tech in the organization you're going to. Otherwise, if you have no tech, I'm like, hey, a spreadsheet and someone teaching you how to put your people into like a CSV, I mean, that could be the right fit for you too, right? But I think knowing what you're looking for with tech and making sure it exists where you're going is important.
100%.
All right, another big one, leads and splits, right? Splits is always like one of the other leading indicators that people come, but like I think you hit a really good point on leads. Like people aren't looking for leads, they're looking for consistent income. People aren't looking for the best splits, they're looking for how do I make the most money, right? And I think as long as you can demonstrate a way that being in this organization is going to make you work less and make more money, or work the same and make more money, or make the same money and work less, and whatever that equation is where you're being more efficient, that's really what most people are looking for with splits. And I think a lot of people, when they're going into these conversations, are hung up on the actual numbers. When give me 95.5, but no support, no leads, no growth. What am I going to do with that? Like, I'm going to be trying to figure out everything myself. But give me 70-30 and fill me up with leads and support and resources and tech. Like I'm going to do more business, make more money, and my life's going to be better. So talk a little bit about how you think about splits there as well.
Yeah, I always love saying too, like if I brought in, this is like, if I'm up on stage, I love bringing this up. People who get really concerned about splits aren't thinking in that way. And I've audited a lot of P&Ls and whatnot too, with bringing, groups in and looking at their business and coaching. And I always tell people, if I brought in $15 million in GCI, and I netted 5 million while working less and having more free time, would I be happy? And anybody in the crowd is always like, yeah. I'm like, great, it's a 33% split. So who the fuck cares?
Totally.
And that's really what you should be looking at, is like, how do you move more efficiently, effectively through your business, with proper leverage. And anybody that's at that 95.5, you're going to have expenses come in at some point if you're growing.
And I think what you just demonstrated too with that 33% split and that 15 and 5 is looking at this like a business. Yeah, right there.
Yeah, I got like super dry throat
tickle there. it's looking at like a business, because anybody who looks at this thing like a business, like they want to find a way to scale and leverage.
Jeez.
Do we need to cut here?
Let's pause for a second.
All right, you good now?
Yep.
You done coughing?
I'm done coughing. Yeah.
Can we get
The not so glamorous side of real estate and having toddlers when you wake up and you're like, oh shit, I'm sick and I got to shoot. I got to shoot today.
We're keeping it real here, man.
Yeah.
This is what happens, real life. We were rapping about splits real quick. I think to kind of put a pin in that and bring that home is your example really made it hit home of like, this is a business.
Right.
It's about profitability.
Right.
It's about gross profit, net profit. Like that's the key to this, is how much can you take home at the end of the day, regardless of what that total net and gross difference is, right? Like your goal is to make more net profit at the end of the day. And if you look at it that way versus the people that look like, I need 95, I need 90, I need 80, whatever that number is, they're looking more of like, it's a job. Like I need to keep as much as possible because I don't have the ability to grow a business on the back end of it and scale and grow and all those different things. So that's kind of bringing splits home there. Broker access or team leader access or access to leadership, a mentor, a pod, a training group. I think this matters too. Like, what are you looking for? Where are you in your career? Like, do you want to grow or do you not want to grow? Do you want to have someone there to coach you? Do you want to have someone there to help you deal doctor? Do you need accessibility to accountability groups and things like that? So knowing what kind of access there is, I think there's, larger organizations, it's hard to have access to a particular person, but maybe there's a group of leadership, right, that grows and scales there.
And I think that too is like, that's something that agents are afraid to even offer or even ask about deal doctoring and if that's available. The amount of deals you and I, Omar, everybody, we save from, we just had a title company go in and they escrowed $480,000 for something that a seller had to clean up post-closing. And like the other title company didn't want to do it. So even that, like we're talking about, a $1.8 million purchase where the buyer almost couldn't close and would have been homeless because they were selling their place before Christmas with a 13-month-old kid at home. And all it was a phone call to a title company to go find a solution. And then the seller accepted the solution and then we closed.
Yep.
But people just let these things blow up and they live in the emotions of that deal a lot of times too. And then they stop doing what they're supposed to be doing. They stop coming to the training. They're all caught up in the, oh, it might die.
And it spirals.
And it really is. It's like, yo, here's a scenario. What's the solution?
Yeah.
And you call him and he's like, all right, let me check with them, calls me back. All right, we got to escrow $480,000. It's got to be paid off within 60 days. Cool. You guys good with that? Yeah. Great. Let's close.
Yep.
Move on to the next deal.
It's having access to that experience,
right?
Like, is there collective, like just the Slack group? You put something like that in a Slack group, even another agent who's not technically a leader or your leader or someone who's helping you personally may have an experience like that. That's like, here it is, right? So I think broker access, a lot of times we think about like, is there one person that we can have access to who's the ultimate leader of an organization? But like the collective group can provide just as much, if not more value there. It's, to that story that you just told, there's that story of like the plumber who walks in, right, taps on something. He's like, it's a $5,000 check.
Yep.
And they're like, well, how's that 5,000? You just tapped. He goes, it's $499 for knowing where to tap and $1 for the tap. Like knowing that that like that simple solution.
Yeah.
Just because you've done it before, right?
Yep.
And I think what I love about what we do is we have almost like not forced isn't the right word, but like built in leadership review of offers into the offer process that runs through the TC. And I had someone that the other day, they were submitting 3 offers, all 3 different clients. And we talked through each one as they were crafting them, and just little things that I've picked up over the years of, oh, you should set this conversation up with the listing agent like this. You should make sure the buyer is aware that generally the seller pays this, but in situations like this, we see it more 50-50 split because and all these little pieces became like things that help those deals all come together more.
Yep.
When it was just experience that this person hasn't had yet, right? So like having access built in and always being able to find somebody as a collective group or individual is huge there. All right. So last but not least, and this I think ties back into a couple of these, but most particularly splits, is growth potential within the organization specifically. Is there leadership opportunities? Is there opportunities to build teams within team? Do you want to do that at all? Do you want something where maybe you can help out in the world of marketing in a few years, and then there's a marketing department that's growing, and there might be some availability to lean into that world because it's exciting to you. So I think it's, do you want to grow yourself, and does the organization allow you and leverage you and support you to do so?
Yep.
But also, like, do you want to you have a different interest outside of maybe real estate sales and a sales team that you in a growing organization that you can also plug into different departments and growth as well.
Yeah, 100%. That's so true. Like, one of the things, when I was at another brokerage, they always taught us to ask when we were recruiting to it, was how many homegrown folks are actually in your brokerage today, or are they recruiting from other ones? Right. And I find that so many times where, let's say a mom and pop, they might be really good with agent development, but then they hit a certain level and then the agent leaves and they go to they go to a Remax or something like that. You see it so often, and that too is with the career growth potential. How do you get into an, because leaving and moving, it's painful. It's a pain in the butt. But how do you get to like the right place where, if your goal is to net $1 million, if your goal is to net 100,000, if your goal is to get out of the real estate business because you love running transaction management, it's like, where can you be? Or we have people too that they don't even live in New Jersey anymore and have people in New Jersey running their business as well. Yep. Is that a goal of yours where you can travel and really work that and kind of sunset too while making the same amount of money? Yep. So what I think that starts with like identifying, what do you really want, and how does your current system and model help get you there in less time?
Totally. I think back to what we started this whole conversation around was like, what does 3 years out in a perfect world look like for you? And then let's reverse engineer and make sure the organization you're talking to can help support, not only help support, but like help you build a plan to get there, like take you there, right? Is key. So everyone's going to look for different things in that, but I think knowing it and then discussing it is important.
Yeah. I think too, like when you're, this is a question I used to always give people when they were shopping me, like when I was a smaller, younger agent, but I used to always say, like, I'm going to make $500,000. I was confident I was going to make $500,000. How are you going to get me there in less time?
I like that.
And they couldn't fucking answer it. Nobody can answer it.
Yeah.
So whatever your goal may be, if it's 200, if it's 250, if you go back to when you swiped your credit card and you're like, I'm going to be a millionaire real estate agent. I want to own 16 investment properties and have $10,000 a month in passive income come in. I want to use a self-directed IRA to go get into syndications down in Arizona. And
I want to get down to 15-hour work weeks and still be able to make X amount of money, right? Like,
I want to do what Donald Trump does and pay 0 taxes. I need a better CPA, like just things. But all of these things are based on like experiences that the person guiding you through that and getting you to where you want to be going probably should have done it, or is at least very intimate on how to get there.
Definitely. I think that's a good place to bring it home, right? Like, make sure that there's examples of who you want to be inside that organization. Could be the ultimate owner of the brokerage or team. It could be a leader within the team. It could be another agent that's not just built their own business, but built exactly what you wanted to build inside of that team or alongside that team, right? So proof of concept and proof of results is ultimately, like, if someone else can do it, the path is there for you.
And that too, as we're putting a ball on this, the culture component of that too, within that community, I was always really good at asking for help from anybody and everybody that was already doing more than me in that certain world. And I was fortunate enough to be at certain brokerages where the agents that were the top producers didn't have closed doors and were always willing to talk to me. And I think that that's a huge thing too, where if there's somebody that's doing something super cool at your brokerage, are they willing to talk to you for free? Are they willing to spend a ton of time with you for free? Are they willing to let you shadow them for free?
Totally.
And if they are, you probably have a pretty good fit, you know, and just go do whatever that person's doing and keep rocking. But a lot of times those doors are closed and they're always like, what's in it for me? I'm not going to show you my secret sauce. And really is never a secret sauce either. They're just working.
They're just doing it.
But if that's happening too, then we definitely want to start showing you the behind the scenes of how agents are doing exactly what they're doing within our world.
I love it, man. That's great.
Cool.
Well, happy moving season to everyone. If you are looking for a new brokerage, looking for a new team, and you're looking at us or not, call us, reach out. We're happy to talk through any situation that you may have, talk about these questions, help you make the right decision for where you're going to grow and go from there. So we might not see it to the New Year's, or this is launching right around December here. So everyone have a great holiday season if we don't see you before, and on to the next one.
Cool.
Yeah, brother.
Thanks, dude.
You too.